TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Hey gang, welcome in. Today is Tuesday, September the 10th. Oh, Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights. Hey man, how you doing? Thanks for checking in. And we'll see what we can run into today. We've got a few games to talk about today. Baseball at this time of year gets hard. And it gets hard because we talked about this, about a month ago. These numbers and the lines, they get out of hand a little bit. And you got to find value in how you want to play them. And you gotta kind of look at some of these games and go, well, what's the meaning and what's, why do they even bother to care? Some of these games, for example, Cincinnati plays St. Louis today. Lauder's pitching today. It might be a good spot to bet Cincinnati, but do they really care that they win the game? Or does St. Louis really care that they win the game? Because neither one of them are going anywhere, and neither one of them is going to make it to the playoffs. So it becomes kind of harder to predict the consistency of play, put it that way. So sometimes you just take your chances on some of that stuff if you think you got a good value there. And then other times, there's other spots. So I haven't been betting a lot of baseball. Yesterday on Monday, I didn't make one bet. It's kind of weird. The NFL was playing on Monday night, and I liked San Francisco, but everybody in my lanes, they were all on the Jets, and maybe I was just thinking, maybe I misread something. But here's what I will say. Never, and shame on me yesterday, never be afraid to stand on your own in these lanes. Don't follow the guidance of what everybody else is doing, because what everybody else is doing will be wrong. It's just the way it works. And it's not because they don't have logic or it doesn't make sense. Or, yesterday, for example, Christian McCaffrey's not playing, and they get Trent Williams back and missed the whole ramp up time, and Ayuk hadn't played the whole time, and they're going to run a backup running back. And what did the running back do? He ran for 150 yards yesterday, 28 carries, the most he's ever had in his life, all the way back to high school. So, it's don't be afraid to be that guy that's out on your own and everybody else is doing something else, because more often than not, the guy that's on his own, kind of standing out there, is going to be the thing, right? So that being said, just be careful. These, and I don't watch them anymore because they bore me to death. But the pregame shows that they have on the TV and stuff, where you get to watch the guest pickers pick who they think are going to win, and the pro football, if they all line up on the same side, it's all bad news, right? So that's kind of the same thoughts that happen in these gambling circles. We have a game that goes at 6:45, so I'm going to break that game down real quick, and then we'll go on from there. This is a different spot for me. I don't normally bet this kind of way, but I think we're at a point now where every game matters to some of these teams. And this 6:45 game, let me pull up I got to get my pitching numbers and offense numbers and all this stuff over here so we can get a come on, man. And we can get, there we go. Now we're cooking with grease, so I can get some ability to talk to you. So this is going to be the Atlanta Braves at the Washington Nationals. And the first thing that I'm going to say is I'm going to be on the Braves. The Braves are small favorites here. And my number in the game that I made this, if I can pull that up, where is that at? There we are. Let me go over here and get that real quick. My number in this game for Atlanta, I have it at minus 140, minus 138. Most of the morning it was in the 130 range, 120 range, or maybe a little higher. I think you're good on this game up to say minus 140-ish or so. So here's where I don't normally bet a game like this. I don't normally bet on a team that's not got a good offense. And right now the Atlanta Braves offense is not very good. The truth of the matter is, if I go to my offensive numbers over here and I look at the Atlanta Braves, they're dead last in offense. They're 30th in offense, 30th in isolated power. So you say, Scott, why are you betting on this team? Well, the reason I'm betting on them is two reasons. Well, actually 3 reasons. One, the Atlanta Braves are at a point where they have to win games and they have to beat teams. And I get it that, if you're not hitting, sometimes it doesn't matter whether you have to win, you can't win. But they're going to face a pitcher today in Gore that is hittable. Now, he's pitched pretty well in his last couple starts, which also means he's got some regression coming to him. He's pitched a game score 63 in his last 3 starts. Over his last 7 starts, it's a 48. And for the season, he's a 49. His last start was a 78. So I expect some regression from him. And so I think you're going to see Atlanta hit him. That's number one. Number two, he's already pitched 3 times against the Braves. And in those 3 starts, he threw a game score of 57, 57, and a 64. So he's been really good against the Braves for 3 times. So here's another little trick to Major League Baseball. A starting pitcher, no matter who it is, it can be an ace. It can be one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. They can go out and dominate a team, and they can do them for 3 straight times. Very rarely, almost never, but very rarely do they do it 4 times. And then, and I'm talking straight times. There's times when a pitcher will face a team 5 times in a season and go and have 4 great games and 1 bad one. But generally what happens is the opponents have seen him enough times that 4th time is just generally a bad spot for that starting pitcher that has been good against the team. So I'm expecting Gore not to be good tonight. I'm expecting him to be bad. Now, can the Braves capitalize on it? Well, I'm crossing my fingers on that one because I think that this is the right spot for that. I think you have Lopez pitching for Atlanta. He's a game score 63 over his last 3 starts. For the season, he's a game score 59. Now, look, man, 59 is right up there with the Major League best. He's not the best pitcher in baseball, but his game score tells you that he's like an ace. He doesn't give up many runs, and he pitches, deeper into games. So I'm expecting a pretty good performance from Lopez tonight, and his metrics are 2.19 xFIP, 2.33 Sierra, 2.57 FIP numbers. Those are top 25% of all baseball. And he's got a strikeout rate of 13.3 per 9 innings. Balls are not in play when he's on a mound. So I'm expecting a pretty good start from him. And I think that's where some of the differences. Like Gore, for example, he's got a batting average against a 262 and a whip rate of 1.37, going against a 0.96 and a .200. So as much as I said that Atlanta's not hitting, I think that Lopez is in a spot where he can shut down what Washington can do, and I like too that Lopez is one of the best WPA pitchers, win percent added pitchers in all baseball. For the season, he's a 3.07. That just means that by far, dominantly by far, he makes better pitchers' pitches, quality pitches, positive pitches than he does negative pitches. By far, not even close. And on the other side, Gore's a minus 0.75 for the season. He's not in the worst 25% of all of baseball, but that's not good. He makes more mistakes than he does good quality pitches. So I like how this sets up for the Braves. The Braves have to win these games, and I think this is one of those spots where you just have to go and say, well, I'm going to take the Braves tonight, even though the Braves aren't hitting. So maybe the game will be a little closer than what you might expect, and maybe they have a struggle here and there, and then have a big inning or something where they get 3, 4, 5 runs, and that's how they do it, and they win the game, 4-1 or something. But I'm expecting the pitching for the Braves to be really good, and I don't think the Nationals are going to score much, and if the Nationals can't score much, I think that puts them in a deficit here. So that's play number one is the Atlanta Braves, and I'll give you we're going to give you 2 more that start at 7, and then we can talk about some other stuff. But so the New York Mets are playing in Toronto tonight, and they've got one of my favorite pitchers, Peterson, pitching. So we're going to be on the Mets. Now, the reason I say favorite pitcher is not because he's any good. The truth of the matter is he's a SOPS plus 91, so he's 9% better than an average pitcher at controlling the opponent's offense. So for the season, so he's a little better than average is basically what he is. But he's made 17 starts for the Braves, 17, and in those 17 starts, the Atlanta Braves are 14-3. I mean, holy crap, 14-3. And if you just think about it, we talked about this the other day when Manaea started. I think Manaea is like 17-6 or something. Those 2 pitchers are 20 games above 500 when there was those 2 guys. Those 2 guys are the difference of why the Mets are where they are, and probably going to make the playoffs. Well, I mean, who knows? We'll see. It's still coming down to that. Jay Barry says, yeah, nice matchup for the Mets. I like it. I like it for a couple of reasons, right? Again, we talked about the Braves have to win. Well, the Mets have to win. But the difference is the Mets, where are the Mets? They're there. The Mets in their last 20 games, they do nothing but win. They're 15-5. In the last 10 games, they're 9-1. So the Mets win. The Toronto Blue Jays, in the last 30 days, maybe 30 days in a week or so, however I do that, they are minus 15% weighted runs created plus against left-handed pitchers. So they don't hit lefties. And certainly you have a left-handed pitcher with Peterson on the mound tonight, and you've got, remember we said Peterson was an SOPS plus 91. Let me make sure that everybody understands what I'm saying, because I don't want to throw out these acronyms and people not understand. Like I'm talking a different language, which happens. And if I do, just in the comments, tell me to slow down or tell me to say something to make it sound better so that you understand what I'm saying. It's important. So SOPS plus, OPS, right, on base percentage, and S is slugging. All right, so it's your on base plus slugging, and then it's the plus sign means that it's grouped and weighted based upon averaging into the stadium effects. So it neutralizes anybody's one effect that they have over another one based on where they play. And then the S part is the predictive piece of it. So it's a predicted number of how they do against. So it's a pitcher's performance against the opponent of how they control that opponent's offense. It's a great statistic to use. And what's great about it is it's not a number. It's not like if you see that number, a lot of times you'll see it as an OPS kind of number. It'll look like 0.703 or something. Well, we don't want that. We want it to be graded on a scale of 100, so we know how he performs in a way to an average pitcher. So average is 100. So if it's a pitcher, he's going to be good. You're going to be below average, meaning below that number. So if you have an 80, for example, you're 20% better than an average pitcher. If you're a 120 for a pitcher, you're 20% worse than an average pitcher. It works exactly the opposite for a hitter. A hitter wants to be above the number, right? So he wants to be very good. So if he's a 120, then he's 20% better than an average hitter. And if he's an 80, he's 20% below. So that's how that number scales and how that 100 works, so that you can get an idea of what these pitchers are like. And it's important when you grade out these games to understand how a pitcher is able to control what the opponent's offense can do. And in this case, for the season, Peterson's a 91, 9% better than an average pitcher. Well, that's just okay. Well, in his last 28 days, which is more important, it's good to look at the season and then compare it to where he's at, because ultimately you're betting on a guy who's either hot or cold or normal. And in this case, we're betting on a guy that's hot. So he's a 62 in his last 28 days, 62. So he's 38% better than an average pitcher at controlling the opponent's offense. And we just said that the Toronto Blue Jays are struggling against left-handed pitching right now. They're 15% worse than an average pitcher or average offense against left-handed pitching. So this is a great matchup for the pitcher for the Mets. Now, having said that, the Mets are going to face a pitcher too. They're going to face Bassett. And Bassett is a 123. So he's 23% worse than an average pitcher. The Mets are currently 5% better than an average team against right-handed pitching. And we just said they're 15-5 over the last 20 and 9-1 in the last 10. So you want to bet on hot teams. You want to bet on good teams. I'm not saying the Mets are good. They're just a hot team. And you want to bet on a pitcher that's 14-3, for God's sakes. 14-3. And then when you look at Bassett, he's made 28 starts. He's 10-18. 10 wins, 18 losses. He loses one out of every 3 games he goes on and pitches. That's not very good. So I think the Mets are in a good spot here. I think you can do pretty well by betting the Mets. I'm on the Mets. I think it's a great play. I think it's right up their alley. Trying to see if I've got anything else for you on that game. Both of them have pretty average metrics. Where the difference comes into play is twofold here. One, you have a problem with Bassett at 1.52 whip rate. So that means whip, remember, is walks plus hits divided by innings pitched. So what's important about that number is it tells you how many guys this pitcher should allow to get on base per inning. He's a 1.52. So 1.5 guys per inning getting on base for the Mets gives them lots of opportunities to score runs. And that's what you're looking for when you're betting, right? Because you can't control it. You just want opportunities. So the Mets should get them at 1.52. And the other thing that was interesting in looking at these notes, ground ball rate is 51%, almost 52 for Peterson. You can't hit home runs if they're hitting ground balls. So damaging blows are much harder to get and achieve if they're not hitting fly balls. So that's a big deal for the Mets pitching as we're looking at these things. And the other part of it, which makes perfect sense based on what you see, is Peterson WPA, win percent added. So this is, again, is you take a column of all these good pitches that he makes, and you put them in this column, and you take all the bad pitches that he makes and put them in this column, and then you subtract the two. WPA is win percent added, meaning that do you make good quality pitches and you get outs? Well, in his case, he's the highest one on the board today, 0.86 in the last 30 days. That's pretty good if you're going to be – he's the obviously in the top 25% of all of baseball. He's putting the ball where it needs to go to get outs. And on the other side, minus 0.47 for Bassett. So that means he makes more mistakes than he does make quality pitches. Think about that. You're a Major League Baseball pitcher. You're out there to perform. You're out there to get outs, and you make more mistakes than you do quality pitches. Well, that's where you're at. So I like the idea here that, and by the way, that's the worst 25% of all of baseball. So I think that's a very good spot for the Mets. So I'm all in on the Mets, and I'm all in on the Braves. So there's another game that I think is an interesting matchup tonight. And it's kind of interesting that I got a lot of games to talk about because I haven't had a lot of games to talk about. I'm like all giddy and excited. This is Baltimore and Boston. And I'm going to tell you, I think Baltimore is the right side tonight. I know a lot of people probably won't agree with that, but I like Baltimore over the Red Sox. I'm not sold on Crawford. And here's sort of where I start off with this. So the first thing we have to do is we have to look at what I made the number at to see why I'm going there. So the first thing is I have Boston minus 105, Baltimore plus 105. So I've got them obviously as a pick 'em. And how do we get there? Well, we get there because if we were to take Baltimore's, whoops, don't do that. I want that over here. There we go. I just got so many windows open. So here we go. Baltimore. They are a 91.5 win team on my numbers. That comes out to a 564 winning percentage. The Red Sox are 87.5, which is a 540 win percentage. Okay, so Baltimore's playing them. They're going to come out. They're going to meet up, and there's going to be a certain percentage of wins for Baltimore because they're the more winning team. But it's not going to be super big because that margin is not that big. But so now Boston has to overcome that. Well, they're going to overcome that to a degree with home field. So then I use projected WAR numbers. Well, projected WAR numbers for Crawford aren't that good. And to be honest, he and Suarez are about even. And that's how this number gets generated to be sort of a pick-em number. But the line isn't a pick-em line. The line in this game is let's get a fresh line for you because my number and that number might be a little different. I try to freshen these up right before the show, but this is Boston minus 133. So theoretically, you're going to be able to get, if you got a 10-cent line, you can get Baltimore plus 123. If not, you're looking at plus 113. And I think that's value. And when you're betting baseball, that's all you can do is bet the value. That's what you bet. You bet on value of the line. And in this case, let's break it down a little farther and look at the pitching numbers to find out if we can get something else out of here. So situationally, we're looking at Baltimore. So this is why I don't like Crawford. I mean, I think Crawford's one of the better pitchers in baseball, to be honest, in terms of stuff. He's got good stuff. He's made 29 starts. In those 29 starts, the Boston Red Sox have won 9 times. Holy shit. 9 times? They're 9-20 in the games that Cutter Crawford starts. So red flag. So as that automatically says, no way I'm betting Boston. I don't care what happens. I'm not 9-20. No. So Suarez isn't the best. He's made 20 starts. They've won 11. So they're 11-9. Baltimore is when Suarez starts. Well, that's much better than 9-20 for gosh sakes. So Crawford's been pitching really well over his last 28 days. He's a SOPS plus 52. So that means he's 48% better than an average pitcher. Well, that's a lot. I mean, if you're telling me he's 48% better than average, that's a lot better. I mean, that's not a little better. That is a lot better. Jeff Dawson kicking in here. That is a ton better. So as I'm looking at this and kind of watching what's happening with these games, then I got to go and say, well, how is this? Where are you coming up with Baltimore? As so, first thing I said, my line tells me there's some value there, and then I just looked at the situational thing, and I'm like, I don't know. We'll see where it's at, where we go. Jay Berry says, awesome show attendance, could hit 500 tonight. Yeah, tell your friends we're at 460. It's awesome. That's an awesome number tonight, guys. That's phenomenal. We are knocking it down. So here's one of my favorite plays to make is when a quality pitcher, and we said Suarez he's an average to just above average pitcher, so he's quality, right? His last time he pitched, he threw a game score 11. 11. Well, 50 is average. 11 is terrible. So for the season, he's a game score 50. For his last 7 starts, he's a game score 54.7. All right, so this 11, that's an outlier. So he's not going to throw an 11 again. That's not what they do. It's the laws in math that basically say you have a mean average and you're going to have outliers to it because it's not a straight line. It's up and down and up and down and up and down to get to the average. Well, you're going to have outlier performances, highs and lows. And when they have a outlier low like that, what typically happens is they're going to pitch above their mean average to bring that number back to average. Only makes sense, right? So I'm going to expect Suarez in this case to pitch a much better game. And he's pitched against Boston before this season. He threw a 67. A 67. To throw a 67, that's a big number. I mean, that's pretty good. So he shut down the Boston Red Sox the last time he pitched against them. So then you look at what Cutter Crawford's doing. Cutter Crawford for the season's a game score 51. His last time out was a game score 65, well above outlier, right? For his last 3 starts, it's a game score 60. And for his 7 starts, it's a 48. He's kind of hit those numbers that are bringing that number, his last 7 up to that 50. I think he's at average or best number tonight. So he's either a 50 or below, and you're going to get a much better pitching performance from Suarez tonight than you are from Crawford. So I think there's value in betting on Baltimore. And then you got to go look at it and say, well, where's the offense is at? And you look at them and you go, well, Boston's hitting and Baltimore's not. But that's where I think you get overridden here by what happens with these pitchers. Look, man, I've been doing this for too long and following these game score trends and charts and numbers and how all that works. And that's just the way it is. That you have a mean average, so an average number, and you're going to have outliers high and low. And then they regress or progress off of those numbers. And I'm looking for Suarez to have a progression number. And I think we said it was 123, right? Plus 123 or plus 113, depending on your number or your line, wherever you got it at. Boston. Yeah, it's 133 at Circa, and it's 133 at Bookmaker. So I think that's a fair number, and you can get him up. So 123, 113, I think it's a good number. So I'm going to scratch one of these games that I have listed here because there was a pitching change. That was Oakland. I liked Oakland tonight, and I was going to give that out as a play because I like Beto, and he's something else. People don't know him. Osvaldo Beto pitches for the Oakland A's, and they're taking on the Astros and Arrighetti. But they changed out the pitcher, and you got Sears pitching tonight. Sears is not that he's a bad pitcher, but I just haven't done the numbers to get quality information. But what was good about Beto is, we sat here and say, okay, well, this guy's a 50 SOPS plus, and this guy's was a 120 or whatever. Beto's a 26, guys. No, 26 or 21. Let's see. Let's go there. And I can tell you, there we go. I just got to get it to the right thing. SOPS plus for Beto, 29. 29. So that means he's 71% better than an average pitcher right now. Holy crap, 71. So it's a short time frame, but when you gamble on baseball, you want short time frames because then you don't miss all the different things that happen in a season. These guys make 30 some starts, and I think John Smoltz, I've said this all season long. John Smoltz said it the best. We're going to make 32 starts in a season. 10 of those starts, we're going to have our best stuff. It's going to be not a problem. We're going to be great. 10 of those starts, we're going to have terrible stuff. Our arms are going to feel bad. We're not going to be able to control the ball. It's not going to be a good thing, all of that, right? And then you got 10 stuff that's kind of in the middle where we have certain things we can work with, certain things we can't, but we're not our best. So when you think about segments of time, you want to capture when a pitcher is not doing well and when a pitcher is doing phenomenal. And you want to bet on that pitcher when he's doing phenomenal and bet against him when he's not. And the same thing with offenses. Offenses are cyclical, man. They change out over 3, 4, 5 days. So you can have a team offense that is just fabulous and scoring tons of runs for 4 or 5 days, and you better be on them for those 4 or 5 days. And then all of a sudden, there they go. They kind of peter out, and then a new team's up there. So think about if you can match that up where you got a great offense and a great pitcher going against a bad offense and a bad pitcher, but the numbers don't match. That's how you bet baseball. That's where you find those valuable spots. So we did the Mets, we did Baltimore, we did Atlanta. So I've got another one that I think is good value. So let me preface this by saying that this is not something that I normally do. So let's talk about lines for just a minute. So if you have I'm looking for my sheet that has all my, there we go. So if you have a number, and let's just say the number is going to be like minus 175. So minus 175, the winning probability on that is 63.6%. So 63.6% of the time that bet or that number, they're going to win. So there's 36.4% of the time it's not. So that's kind of what you got to look at when you're betting the underdogs. And I'm going to give you an underdog play in that type of a scenario tonight because I think it's the right frame of mind, right thought process. But keep in mind, my thought process here is if you don't do this on a regular basis, then don't. So the idea is don't take a shot and then expecting it to win when theoretically only 36% of the time it's going to. So, but over the course of a season, if that bet comes up 100 times and you made it 100 times, you're going to come out a little bit ahead because you made it all those times. You'll catch that 36, 37, 38%, whatever the number is that it actually turns out to be, and you should be able to be fine. But if you don't make the bet over and over and over, just hitting that one shot may or may not happen. But here's what I like. Let me go to the odd screen for my numbers because that's probably where this came into play. So I have the Texas Rangers tonight play Arizona Diamondbacks, and I get it. The Texas Rangers are out. They're not competing for anything. They got nothing going on. There's nothing happening for the Texas Rangers. I get that. And the Arizona Diamondbacks, they're in the playoffs as it sits right now. They're still in the playoff run to try to catch the Dodgers. Of course, they gotta pass the Padres first, but they also got to stay afloat ahead of like the Mets or the Braves if they start to falter and get to a point where they don't even make the playoffs at all. So these are important games for the Diamondbacks as well. So I'm going to tell you that I like the Rangers tonight, and I think there's value on the Rangers tonight. The number that I have in the game is Arizona minus 138. Arizona minus 138. The number that I see that on the line, and when you look at it, it's all the way up to Arizona. It's 176 at circa 173 at bookmaker. So we'll call it 175 just to make math easy. It's a minus 175, which is kind of the number I was giving you there for an example in a minute. So the underdog side of that is going to be plus 160-ish in that number, and for the Rangers, and I think the Rangers are worth a shot tonight. So let's see. I already said the value in the number, but let's look at it from a pitching perspective and see if that makes any sense, right? So you have Evaldi on the mound for the Rangers. That's the guy you want. He's the bulldog. He's the guy that's not going to give in, and he's going to give everything he's got. He's just that kind of guy. He's made 25 starts for the Rangers. The Rangers are 15-10 in those starts. You want that. You want a guy that's at least, positive on those numbers. And these are critically important numbers to comprehend because, you can have a guy like the Phillies have Wheeler, one of the best pitchers in baseball, but his numbers aren't much better than 15-10. They're like 16-11 or something like that in his starts. So they do lose games that these guys pitch in. And when we're betting, we lose games because of that. So I don't look at a individual pitcher's performance because I don't care. I don't care what his won-lost record is. I need to know what the team's won-lost record is when he starts, because that's going to be my bet. And if I'm betting on a guy that's 14-3 like Peterson tonight, I'm pretty giddy. I'm like excited. But if I'm betting on a guy that's 15-10, I got to match that up and see what it looks like. It's good. Don't get me wrong, because we got guys tonight that are just unbelievably bad. You've got a guy like, well, that doesn't really count. The White Sox pitchers 5-12, whatever. So you've got a guy like, here we go. So Savali's pitching for Milwaukee. He's pitched 27 times. Now I get it. He pitched some of the season somewhere else. He didn't pitch for Milwaukee the whole time. He pitched with the Rays. He's 10-17. So you don't really want to support a 10-17 pitcher, no matter how good he's been pitching. And he's been pitching pretty good, Savali. But I just look at that and I go, there's red flags all over the place. So you want to support these guys that do well. Like the Cubs tonight have the best pitcher going right now in terms of wins. Yamana's made 26 starts, 26. The Cubs, when he starts, they're 20-6. Holy crap, 20-6. And I know Yamamoto's been out for a while. He's only made 14 starts, but they're only 8-6 in Yamamoto starts. So that really says red flag all over Dodgers. You don't want to bet Dodgers. So if you don't want to bet Cubs, that's okay, but you can't bet Dodgers, if that makes sense. So you look at certain things like that and you go, oh my God, how do I miss that? How do I capture some of that stuff? Well, that's the number you want to look at. You want to look at the pitcher's performance. Shouldn't say it that way. The team's performance when the pitcher starts. It's extremely important because it matters way more than what his personal won-lost record is. Because who cares? It does. They take him out or they do whatever, and he doesn't get credit for wins, or he gets credit for a win he shouldn't have, and all that stuff. None of that matters. What matters is when we bet, we're looking for those outcomes, and that's the only way to get it. So in this case, Evaldi 15-10. It's not a bad number. Now Gallen is 14-10. Okay, so about even. So 14-10, 15-10. All right. So think about that for a minute. Let it resonate just for a minute and go, that's pretty even. This line isn't very even, right? Even my number was minus 138. But that's because the Rangers are more of a little bit below 500-ish team, and the Diamondbacks are more of like a close to 90 win team, right? So you've got a disparity in performance. The Diamondbacks are better. So when I'm looking at that line, I think 138 is a pretty good number, to be honest. 174 is just too far. So let's go out and figure out why. So if I look at this and I go, in the last 20 games, the Diamondbacks need a win. So you would expect them to have great numbers. They're 11-9. I wouldn't call that great. That's good. 11-9 is good. It's not great. Well, the Rangers have nothing to play for. Last 20 games, they're 14-6, for gosh sakes. They're winning 2 out of every 3 games. That's pretty good. So they're hot. They haven't been hardly hot all year. They were hot kind of at the very beginning of the season for a little bit, and that's about it. So I like the idea that holy crap, they're playing better. So not only are they playing better, in the last 10 games, they've won 7. So they're currently pretty good. And the Diamondbacks in the last 10 games, they've only won 4 times. So they're below 500 there, kind of 500-ish over the last 20 games, and not so for the Rangers. So this is the time slot where Rangers playing better, scoring better, doing well is good. So then I'm looking at it and I go, all right, so SOPS plus. Gallen for the season is a 94. He's only 6% better than an average pitcher, guys. And I know the last couple of years he's been an ace and he's been all these other things. Not this year. He's a 94. So in his last 28 days, he's an 89, 11% better than an average pitcher. So that's good. I mean, that's you want to be betting on guys that are like that. But on the other side, Eovaldi's a 79 for the season. So 21% better than an average pitcher for the whole year. And in the last 28 days, he's a 42, 58% better than an average pitcher, 58. So he's been dynamic in his last 28 days. And we already said, like, he's a bulldog kind of guy. And now we also matched it up to look at it and go, man, the Rangers are 14-6 in the last 20, 7-3 in the last 10. This might be the right spot, right? So let's go just a little deeper. And we look at this, and Gallen for the season is a game score 54, right? Aces are 60. Average pitcher is 50. He's 54. So he's an above average pitcher. It's not an all-star quality pitcher right now. He's just an above average pitcher for the season, game score wise. Over his last 3 starts, it's a 63. And over his last 7 starts, it's a 56. So that 56 tells me that that's kind of where he's supposed to be. All right, his last time out was a 76. He ain't throwing no 76 tonight. He's going to throw below his mean because he's already above it, if that makes sense. So I'm expecting him to be average at best, 50, 51, something like that, an average performance. And then on the other side, Eovaldi, he's a game score 56 for the season. Last 7 starts is a 53, so he's just slightly below. His last 3 starts is a 67. He could throw another 60 because he's a little bit below where he's at for the season. So I expect a better performance from Eovaldi than I'm going to get from Gallen. So I think that makes sense. Both pitchers are in the average range when it comes to metrics. You have 3.59 xFIP for Eovaldi, 3.94 for Gallen. Not much, half a run difference. And again, half a run difference in Sierra, 355 to 405. Where you start to see the difference in the 2 pitchers is the whip rate for Eovaldi, 0.89. Not one guy is getting on base per inning. 0.89. That's pretty good. That's the best 25% of all of baseball. And and only Beto, I mean, he's not pitching, but only Beto was at 81.81, was lower than him. And then .184 is his batting average against. So average, I don't look at batting average as a statistic other than, balls in play kind of stuff. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, he strikes out 9 guys per 9 innings. He walks are under control, only 2 walks per 9 innings. Doesn't put guys on. Balls in play are good. Doesn't walk guys. It's going to be difficult. His WPA is a .74 to the positive. Doesn't make mistakes. He's a good pitcher. 1.65 for the season. Best 25% of all baseball. That's what you want. You want a guy that goes out there and throws the ball where it's supposed to be thrown to get outs. That's what you need. That's what Eovaldi does. Gallen on the other side, big strikeouts here the last 30 days. He's 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. And so the Rangers like to strike out. So I'm going to expect some strikeouts. But he's also a 4.91 walk guy. So that's basically 5 walks per 9 innings. He's going to walk some guys. So that's going to put guys on base, which changes his whip rate. It's 1.32. So that's just average. So then you're looking at what's his WPA look like? 0.25 to the good. You would expect a guy like this to be much higher than that, and it's not. So again, Eovaldi makes great pitches, gets outs, does all the things he needs to do. Very, very good at those kind of things. And then on the backside, looking at offense, you go and say, well, it would make sense to me that Texas is probably hitting right now if they're winning all those games. And they're 5th in baseball. 5th. It's been a long time since the Texas Rangers have been 5th. A lot of times they're in the bottom, say, 25 to 30 range, bad. They're 5th in baseball. They're scoring 5.7 runs a game. They've scored 34 runs in the last 36 games. That's pretty, or 6 games. That's pretty good. When I stretched it out and look at their offense, they got 1, 2, 3. They got 4 guys over 1 offensive WAR, and they got 2 guys more than 1 minus offensive WAR. So 4 guys are doing great in the lineup. 2 guys kind of pulling away. They get a number of 5.9 when you add them all up, right? Offensive WAR 5.9. That's pretty good. And they're ranked 5th in total offensive WAR. And then you got the Diamondbacks, same situation. They got 4 guys over 1 offensive WAR. The difference, 5 guys for the Diamondbacks that are minus 1 offensive WAR. So they got 2 guys that are just like hitting. And then the rest of them are just kind of like pulling away or just sort of adding. That's about it. And one of those guys is like Grichuk, right? So a guy that's not normally a producer. So he could be a non-producer at any given time. So I like the idea here that and they total 5.6 offensive WAR for their lineup. So Texas matches that. Texas, I think, has the better pitcher. And when I'm looking at the line, and the line's minus 170 or 175, it's too far. It's too much. So that puts value then on the Texas Rangers, and I think you can bet the Texas Rangers tonight with a little bit of confidence that they'll pull through and be all right. One of the other things I think gives you some edge here and is when I look at bullpens, you want to look for how many innings does a bullpen pitch, and then how many hits do they give up, and of those hits, how many are home runs. So I'm looking at this, and the Texas Rangers have pitched 52.1 innings, given up 57 hits. I don't like that. I want it to be where if they pitched 52 innings, I want them to have only given up 50 hits or less. Less number of hits than innings. But at the same time, they only give up 6 home runs. That's not a terrible thing. And remember what we just said, 52 innings, 57 hits, right? So the big flaw that the Diamondbacks have is their bullpen. It's a big flaw. It's a problem. They've pitched 44 innings. So that tells you that their starters have been going deeper than what the Rangers starters have, but not tonight. you've got Evaldi. He's on the mound. He'll go 6 or 7 tonight. So you've got 44 innings that they've pitched, 44.2. They've given up 59 hits. That's more hits allowed than what the Rangers had, and the Rangers have 8 more innings that they've pitched. And they've given up 8 home runs. So when Gallen comes out of the game, it doesn't matter who the Diamondbacks put in. The Rangers still have a chance to score runs. So I like the idea here that you have value all the way through this game for the Texas Rangers. So, I had a couple other things that I thought were marginal, but we won't go marginal tonight. I do want to say a couple things about college football. So, so just so you guys know, there's 700 people on the show tonight, which is awesome. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Comments are welcome. You guys can put any comments you want in here. Ask me any questions about any of the games you want. We can go over all that stuff live. Anything you want. Follow me on Twitter. That would be a good thing to say at this point. That would be awesome. But here's what I wanted to say about college football. So last week, college football, I think I was 4-2 or something like that. So I was 4-2 in college football. NFL was awesome. NFL was great on the opening night. I was on Kansas City. Then the next night I was on the over. So that's 2-0. And then I was 4-0 on Sunday. So that's 6-0. So football, I know people know me for baseball. Football was 10-2 over the weekend. So really good football start. And I wanted to share 2 things. I saw some tweets about Kenny White. And Kenny White has a service. And I use Kenny White's service myself. I bought Kenny White to give me power ratings for Kenny White. And then I saw some tweets that came in and they said, well, they're all stale. They're not fresh. They're from last year or from the beginning of the season. So the way it works when you buy Kenny White's package, it's $20. And he sends you, he gets your email address and he'll send them to you via email. You don't go onto his website and get to get the numbers. He sends them to you, and he'll send them to you and he'll adjust them every week. So the comment that was made was, well, they're stale. They don't come out all the time. They don't come out weekly. Well, they do. They come out every week. They're adjusted every week. And then what I liked about what Kenny White does that most people don't do when they put in their power ratings is Kenny White also has a spot where he puts in pace of play. So pace of play then helps create a margin and a game number. And he creates that number too. Now, I don't base my handicap, shouldn't say it that way. So I don't go off of what his numbers say to make a bet. But it's very rare I go against the numbers. I use his numbers to get a formulated idea of what the line should be to what the line is. And then I go and look at a couple other places, which is kind of hard currently because we just don't have a lot of information, but it's coming. And I'm going to share one of those places with you guys if I can get it pulled up for you. This is a plug for all these people out here that do all this fabulous work. So there's a site, and this isn't it. Let me go to that site so I can get it. I think it's changed its name. It used to be, so it's really run by Stats of War, on the Stats of War guy. I forget what his name is. But he's the guy that runs this website. But it's called College Football Insiders. And if you go to College Football Insiders, there's a spot where it says schedule. You can click schedule. And then it's going to, of course, I click it and it says bad gateway. So let's pull this up again. And I'm a nerd just like everybody. I shouldn't say not like everybody. I'm into these games that are Sabermetrics, right? I do all this stuff for baseball. I do the same thing for football. Like, I want to know EPA numbers. So, for baseball, WPA, win percent added, EPA is extra points added. So you're talking about drives, and in those drives, you get the idea. Come on, man. Pull up these numbers for me, please. College football. There you go. We're going to go into I wanted to share a game with you guys real quick. 2 games, actually. But it's going to be harder to do it this way. So EPA is extra points added, right? So the way WPA works is that we talked about pitchers, and they either throw a quality pitch and it goes in this column that's quality pitches, pluses, or they throw negative pitches, bad pitches, and it goes in this. Then they subtract the 2, and it says you're going to Marty Lowe says, hey, Scott. Yep. I got it. It says, how did you do in football this weekend? Man, I just said that. We were 10-2, Marty Lowe. We had a great college football. Jay Berry says, solid stuff from Kenny White. Signed up over the weekend, $25. Awesome information put together in the emails. It is. They're look, I don't know how else other than to tell you. He says, my bad, just logged on. No worries, man. Marty, it's all good, man. It's no worries at all. We're doing some football right now, but I wanted to explain EPA for a second. So EPA, right? Extra points added. And this is a metric where you get an offense, right? And the offense is, I don't know, we're going to say it's 2nd down and 7. And they gain, we'll just say they gain 4 yards. So now it's 3rd down and 3. And then from 3rd down and 3, they gain 4 more yards and they get a 1st down. So EPA. So the offense gained yards towards a 1st down. That's positive. You get credit for that. So it's an EPA positive play. Then you get a second EPA positive play, but it counts as more because you got a 1st down and you're closer to the goal line. So they were both 3-yard gains, but one of them was more valuable than the other one, and you got credit for that being more valuable. The defense on the other side, if they stop them, they're negative EPA plays. So they're minus. So you want, just like we talked about with SOPS plus for pitchers, you want them to be minus to be good on pitchers. For defense on football, you want them to be minus numbers. And for offense, you want them to be as big as positive numbers as you can get. So the way that these guys work this stuff out, and what I want to do is I'm going to pull up a game. This is going to be Kansas. Kansas, and they play UNLV. But for me to do this, I got to do it this way. UNLV, I can't remember if they're the home team. I got it pulled up over here. I can get it. Kansas is the home team. So the away team is UNLV. The home team is Kansas, and generate. All right, so what's good about this? So I used to do this stuff on a spreadsheet, and it's just wild how some of this, it's just a lot of data. So you can go here, and the first thing you see is the column of UNLV. UNLV EPA margin, right? So they're saying, okay, you generated this much offense, EPA, you generated this much defense, EPA, or negative. What's that margin look like? So their margin is 0.264. Nobody cares. You just need to know they're 11th in the country at that margin, right? And Kansas is 0.22. So you can see kind of how some of this, you're going to see how this stuff breaks out, right? And what's good is EPA isn't everything. I use EPA in college football. I don't use EPA in pro football. In pro football, I use DVOA. it's a different dynamic that Aaron Schatz created, and used to be on Pro Football Outsiders. Now he works for Fantasy Network, and I get the DVOA numbers from there. But success rate is good, right? So success rate means that you had a successful offensive play game, but you were supposed to, or you didn't. So it's pretty much that simple. And that's where UNLV has some trouble. Offensively, they can't run the football. They're 110th in being able to run the football. So that's going to be a problem when you're on the road and you're playing a quality team in Kansas that just lost. Kansas got beat by Illinois, and Kansas has a pretty dynamic offense, but turned the ball over, did some things, didn't have a great game against Illinois. So I think they're going to be refocused. They're going to be where they need to be. But what's great about this game is, I'm going to pull out my spreadsheet here for 1 second and tell you why I brought up Kenny White and some other stuff, right? So Kenny White's numbers on this game, well, let's just share the number. The actual line in the game is Kansas -7 and 58 is the total. So Kenny's numbers have and what's good is the open was -8.5. So you got to know this stuff when you're betting football. You got to know that the line was 8.5 and now it's 7. Well, why is that important? Well, it's important to understand what the influence of what the people saw last is. What they saw last was they saw Kansas lose to Illinois, and they've seen UNLV do pretty well. So that's where you've got this, okay, well, I'm going to take UNLV in the 8.5. Well, that might not necessarily be a bad play. The key number is 7. That's a key number, right? So 7's the number. So the way Kenny's numbers come out, Kansas is 117.5 is their power rating. And then UNLV's is 108. And Kansas has a 4.5 point home field advantage. This number is 13.5. So theoretically, 13.5, almost 2 touchdowns, is what Kansas is better than UNLV. And the number 7. The buy point on a game like this is not 7. You got to get it at 6.5. Now, once it's 7, I'm not telling you to go buy half a point. I will never tell you to buy half a point, ever. And I will never tell you to do that. It costs too much money. Over the course of 1,000 bets that you make, and you're going to pay 25 cents or whatever you're going to pay to change the number, a half a point, it's going to cost you too much money. So don't ever do that. You either bet it at the number that's given and shop the odds and find the best odds you can at that number, or you pass. If the number doesn't show back up, you pass. So I got 6.5 this morning. So I gave it out to my guys, Kansas -6.5. Here's what I'm going to tell everybody. Have you ever been betting on betting exchanges? You know what a betting exchange is, as opposed to a sports book, right? Sports book, you go up to a window. If it's brick and mortar, you tell them, I want to play on rotation number 160, and I want $100. So, and you give it to them, and then they generate a ticket for you. If you're doing it on your phone, you have Circa, or you have my neck of the woods. You have Hard Rock. You have whatever you have, and you make your bets right through there, and you're betting against the sports book. The sports book has all the money. A sports exchange works a little different. It works where you have people on both sides, and they have to get money in, and once they start getting money in, the numbers come in. And then money, the odds can be different, the lines can be different, and you're betting and somebody else is taking your bet. And the betting exchange is taking their little profit out of each bet. So I now am part of Profit Exchange. It's legal to bet it in Florida, so that's where I'm betting it from. And that's where I'm getting some of these lines. It's a Profit Exchange. And just go on there, do whatever. It doesn't do me any good to give you a referral code and all that stuff because I don't care about any of that stuff. I think it's $10 they give me to do that stuff. So who cares? But what I'm trying to do is get you guys better, another place to shop a line. And it's a nationwide profit exchange. It's a nationwide exchange. It's like sport. It's like Scott Trade. But Scott's Trade is only available in certain states. But it's the same thing. And I've been using it, getting great numbers and being able to capitalize on those types of things. So just food for thought. If you haven't done it, there you go. It's an avenue to get there. There's 850 people on this show tonight, so maybe they get 850 new customers. Who knows? So anyway, what I'm going to try to tell you is that you've heard all these people, and I don't know, you've heard the phrase, don't bet teams, bet numbers. And the way I teach it and the way I tell you is you cannot afford to bet bad numbers in football. So you have to know certain things. I mean, you have to know certain things. And certain things that you have to know is you have to know what are the key numbers, right? And in football, they're pretty simple. 3 is the biggest key number there is. So you want to be, you don't want to have to, if you're a favorite, you certainly don't want to be betting 3.5. You want to be betting 2.5, because it's worth money to do that. It's worth a lot of money over the course of 1,000 bets to do that. So if you're doing a 7, that's the next biggest key number. You need 6.5 or 7.5, right? If push comes to shove, 7's okay because theoretically, if it lands on 7, you get your money back. Yeah, you're making bets to win bets though, so you want to make good bets. Period. End of statement. Or don't bet. I got to say that as clear as I can. If you don't make a good bet, then pass and bet something else. You don't have the luxury to make a bad bet. And to know what a good bet is, the first thing you have to do is go. So here's a differentiation piece, right? The Dallas Cowboys were playing the Browns, and the number never got to 3. I'm waiting for the number to get to +3 for Dallas. I played them +2.5. That's the best number I could get. So they ultimately ended up winning. Obviously, they didn't lose by 3, which would have been a bad spot. And then you sit there and go, well, if it's such a great thing to bet and make great bets, then why'd you bet 2.5? Well, the numbers really showed, and the situation showed that the Browns were going to have trouble. The Browns had two offensive linemen not in the game, and then they had, and you could see the trouble the Browns had on offense, on the offensive line particularly. And then Chubb wasn't there, so they didn't have their main running back. So they had all kinds of issues. So sometimes your handicap and the understanding of the situation allows you to play a +2.5. There's a spot where I think college football, Boston College plays this week. They play Missouri. The number that I keep seeing is 16.5. I've seen 17. I didn't get there in time. I want 17. So I think 16.5 is still good. I won't bet that if I can't get 17, because that's what makes it a good bet, not 16.5. And 17 is the key number. So those are the kinds of things I'm talking about, right? So there is one spot this week that I think Washington plays Washington State. the number that I saw this morning was 4.5. Then I saw 5.5. Look, you're going to have to bet that game before 6, before it gets to 6. So you have a key number of 3, a key number of 7. Those are the big numbers. Then 6 and 4 and 1 are kind of in there as key numbers, but you don't. So 4 and 6 are kind of interesting, because 4 is a number where if you're watching the number and it was 3, then it went to 3.5, then it went to 4, and it doesn't stop, and it went to 4.5, and it went to 5. 4 is a key number. So it goes through the key number and it keeps going. Tells you that the market says that this game is going to be a touchdown or more. So you can read into that and go, okay, well, it's ran through that number, right? The other side is you sit there, what you're doing, and we talked about this last week, you're looking for bumpers. So let's just say the game opened at that, what we just said, say it was 3.5, and it went to 4, and it went to 4.5, and say it went to 4.5, and then it got bought back down to 4. Well, there's your bumper. So your bumper is 3.5 or 4.5. So if it gets to 3.5, you're betting the favorite. If it gets to 4.5, you're betting the dog. And if it's 4 in the middle, you're not betting anything. So you're looking for where those bumpers are, and then within that defined space of betting that game, you need to figure out what side you want to be on. And that's kind of how you want to ensure yourself that you're going to have a great bet. So my opinion on this Washington State game is, I think Washington's probably been one of the most undervalued college football teams so far this season. That doesn't mean that I think they're a top 20 team and that they're a great football team and all that stuff. I just think they're a good team, undervalued team. And I think they're playing Washington State, who's a little overvalued. And I think you should be able to take this game. And I think Washington handles them pretty easily. So I'm going to be buying that game in a little bit and playing it. So there's spots that I think that you can look at. I haven't looked at the NFL. Well, I shouldn't say I haven't looked. The NFL I've been looking at. I haven't deep dived into what I'm going to do yet. Thursday game's interesting to me. And one of the things that I think a lot of people do, guys, look, just we got 1,000 people on the show tonight. I mean, that's awesome. Thank you very much. That's a big number. And do me a favor, though, while we have these thousands of people. Just like the show, retweet the show, make comments for the show. It helps drive traffic. It helps us get to the point where we got the Viva Waters, and we've got some of these. We got a new steak place. We got stuff coming that helps us with advertising. We get to a point where we get these thousands of things. We have that stuff. If you like what I'm talking about, go to my website, mlb-daily.com. I have a package there. It's $100. It's the whole season, all football, all baseball. I don't try to make money off of that. I use that to help substantiate what I'm doing here on this show. So if you want to support the show, do those things. Worst case scenario is retweet us, like us, follow me on Twitter. It goes across the bottom out there all the time, Webby20 MLB. So as we're getting into the NFL, one of the things that you're not going to hear me talk about a lot. I'm not that guy that's going to go tell you, well, the Buffalo Bills are 9-2 against the Miami Dolphins. I'm not a trends guy. To a degree, I turned 57 3 days ago. And when I was 27, I was a trends person all day because I didn't know how to handicap the games. I didn't know how to read into the numbers. I didn't know how to do those kinds of things when it came to that. Well, now I can create my own numbers. I can do the sabermetric stuff for both college football, for NFL football, for baseball, for all the stuff. And I can get the answers to the questions that I want. And I've been doing this long enough now where I can tell you what a good bet is. And that's my whole goal of all of this. The whole goal of all of what I'm ever trying to do is teach people that handicapping is secondary to good betting. If you make 1,000 great bets, you're going to win money guaranteed, because you can't not. Your extra value, your EV positive numbers over 1,000 bets will outweigh the losses. They just will. And then your handicapping skills help you eliminate certain spots that might be tricky, and or they might substantiate the value of what you have in other things, right? So that's kind of how I do all this stuff and try to put it all together. I'm at this point. I know HN and the other running back for Miami, they didn't practice, so I got to figure out what's going on there. But Miami didn't play the greatest game in the world. And they were a little bit sloppy in the game that they played on Sunday. But they had 400 yards of offense. And the way I look at this is their defense played pretty well. And the reality is that the Buffalo Bills, they are Josh Allen, period. End of statement. He's going to run around and he's going to do whatever and he's going to make plays, and that's it. So I think the Miami Dolphins can beat Buffalo, especially in Miami. But I've got to do a lot more research before I do that. And that'll probably be tomorrow. I'll get some more of that stuff information-wise in, and we'll start releasing some more of that stuff. So I like Kansas minus 6.5 in the college football this week so far, and we went over the baseball. So hopefully we can do some good things, guys. Look, there's almost 1,100 people here. It's awesome. Makes me smile thinking about it. It's great night. Super fabulous, guys. And I will be back tomorrow. So if we can get 1,000 people on tomorrow, that'd be awesome. 6:15 is when I start. We'll break down baseball. We'll have more football tomorrow. Because it's Wednesday. Got to get some more college football out. We'll get some starting of some NFL out, and then we'll go from there. So, guys, just like I always sign off the show with this, it helps when you guys like the show. It helps when you guys support the show by retweeting the show and I don't know, there's social media influencers do that thing where they say like, subscribe, and whatever. I'm just a guy that does baseball betting and all that stuff. I do betting. I'm not an influencer. I'm not a media creator. I'm not a content creator guy. So I'm just going to tell you how to make bets and how to look at stuff. So if you like what we're doing, support us by doing those things. Go to my website, sign up for my packages. That helps pay the bills on some of the stuff. It's $100. Trust me when I tell you, I make a living by gambling. I don't make a living by you giving me $100. That's not a bet for me. Okay. It's not, it helps run this stuff. So just go do those things, help support the show, help do all that stuff. And I will see you tomorrow, 6:15. Guys, look, thanks to Jay Berry for the comments. Marty Lowe, great comments again. Daniel Berry, it's good to talk to you guys. Look, I know sometimes you guys can't see all the comments, but go ahead and make comments. Make comments when the show's over. I know you can do that kind of stuff on YouTube and some of the places, but make the comments, get the stuff out. It helps. Guys, I will see you tomorrow, 6:15. Let's have a great night, guys. Talk to you later.